Okay, welcome back. We're going to do another one of these. Trying to make them quick. I know the last one was 12 minutes. So let's jump into this. I'm going to run through a list of events that led up to World War II. Now, these aren't necessarily causes, although some of them kind of cause one another. These are just the list of events that go and get us into World War I. And again, us is the United States. How did we get involved in this war? So most of the time, you start in Europe and you talk about Nazi Germany. This is a map in 1936, right before all this is happening. But I'm going to start in Asia, in the Pacific Ocean. Okay, so again, we see Japan in red on this map. The first action happens in 1931, where Japan invades Manchuria, Manchukuo. Essentially, they create a puppet government. Essentially, they put a person in charge, but really that person obeys the commands of Japan. This is kind of the first aggressive action that could be considered part of World War II. Okay, and remember, this is back to the last video. They're using this land for farmland. During this time period, China is actually in a civil war between nationalist forces and communist forces. Okay, so there's another war going on while Japan is attacking northern China. All right, conflict everywhere. And that's all because of the desperation of the Great Depression. In 1937, Japan comes down from Manchukuo into these other red provinces and along these little cities on the coast here. They start invading all of China, all out war. 1937 is the start of what is called the Second Chinese-Japanese War. And a lot of historians consider this to be the actual start of World War II. All right. So that's kind of what gets us started in this section of the war. Let's jump back to Europe. So here we have Europe. This is 1938. Okay, 1938. Germany peacefully annexes Austria right here. They actually hold an election, a vote, where all Austrians and Germans are able to vote on whether they want to do this. And it's a ridiculous sham of an election. It comes back with like 99% of all people in the country voting yes, that they will peacefully join. Okay. Also in 1938, Germany gains this border region right along the border with Czechoslovakia. It's called the Sudetenland. The reason for this is that there are a lot of German people that live in this tiny border region. So Germany basically uses this as an excuse to take it from Czechoslovakia. And here's the thing. They don't even actually ask Czechoslovakia for it. They ask Great Britain and France for it. The Prime Minister of Great Britain and the President of France go to Germany to talk to Hitler, and Hitler basically convinces them and says, this is the last thing I'm ever going to do. Don't worry about it. Just let me have this Sudetenland, and then I will get out of your hair. You won't have to worry about me anymore. And so they believe him, and they let Hitler take this land. Well, just a little bit later in 1939, Hitler and Germany take over the rest of Czechoslovakia. All the brownish territory here becomes part of Germany. And what do France and Great Britain do? They get upset, but they don't stop them. Okay? Instead, their response is they sign an agreement and make it publicly known that if Germany attacks Poland, that will be it. If Germany attacks Poland, they will go to war with Germany. So they let him take over Czechoslovakia. Okay. Also in 1939, it's another major event. 1939, Germany signs an agreement with the USSR, Russia. They sign an agreement saying that they will not attack each other. And at the same time, they also make a secret plan to eventually cut Poland in half, with half of Poland going to Germany and half of Poland going to the Soviet Union. After that pact is signed and the Germans know they don't have to worry about the big, giant army of the Russians, they go ahead and they invade Poland. This happens on September 1st, 1939. September 1st, 1939, Germany invades Poland, and as Great Britain and France said they would, they declare war on Germany. Okay. Now, Germany has been in a state of war. Hitler has gotten their country all ready to go for a long time. Great Britain and France, they weren't expecting this, even though they totally should have been. So they're not ready. It takes them a long time to get their militaries going. During this time period, in April of 1940, Germany invades Denmark and they invade. You can't even see it because I picked a bad map, but that little tiny piece is Norway. So they're invading up into the north part of the world. Later, just a month later, May of 1940, Germany invades the Netherlands and Belgium and Luxembourg. They just kind of roll through these tiny countries very easily, very few casualties whatsoever. After that, the Italians, who had just been kind of sitting by the side, they officially joined the war on Germany's side. So the Italians, they start attacking France. They start helping Germany. They're basically like Germany's little sidekick. In June of 1940, France, one of the most powerful countries in European history, surrenders. That's it. They're done. The whole World War II is over for France, essentially. Well, not really. I mean, they still exist. There's still French people that are fighting and resisting the Germans, but France gives up after a few months. Germany was so prepared, they just steamrolled right in. So this is very different than World War I, where there's trenches and all that stuff. The Germans, the Nazis, roll right into Paris very quickly in the war. In September of 1940, all the way across the ocean, Japan makes an alliance with Germany and Italy. This forms the official Axis powers: Germany, Italy, and Japan. So they are now all allied together. And part of that alliance means that Japan declares war on Great Britain and France. Now, during this time period, between like the winter of 1940 and the spring of 1941, Germany takes over basically the rest of Europe, except for Switzerland and Spain and Portugal. Okay, so Germany invades and goes south into Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, Albania, and Greece. Just takes over all of this area. So if we were looking at a new painted map of this, everything except for Spain, Portugal, and Switzerland would be colored basically one color. All of this territory now belongs to Germany. And that just took 2 years, less than 2 years, a year and a half. It's crazy. Very different than World War I, which was years and years and years of stagnant fighting. Next, we have a law that is created in the United States. Very different than the other major actions. This law was called the Lend-Lease Act. Lend-Lease Act. This happens in March of 1941. Basically, what this is the United States doesn't want to get involved in the war, but they want to help Great Britain, France, even though they're kind of getting defeated, and the Soviet Union. So they start giving them billions and billions of dollars and weapons and supplies to help them fight against the Germans mostly, but the Italians and the Japanese as well. Okay, so this gets the United States invested in the war, even if they're not fighting in the war. Okay, the next thing that happens in June of 1941, Germany, feeling pretty good about itself, having conquered all of Europe, they invade the Soviet Union. And this is a key moment in World War II. It is very possible the results of World War II would have been different if Germany had not broken its non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union. So instead, they break the pact, they invade the Soviet Union, and this is really going to sap the strength out of the Nazi army. So when the United States does eventually get involved, they're not dealing with the full power of the Nazis. At least half of the Nazis are over here trying to fight against the Russians. So this is a major mistake that Hitler made. It's considered to be his downfall, honestly. In July of 1941, the United States creates another law that has major importance in the Pacific. They create an oil embargo of Japan. No more oil from the United States or any of the United States allies. None of it goes to Japan. And as I said in the last video, this is crucial to Japan's economy. They need that oil. So at that moment, Japan starts planning its major attack on US territories. That's going to lead to our last event, December 7th, 1941. The attack on Pearl Harbor gets all of the credit. Japanese take aircraft carriers, sail through the Pacific Ocean undetected, launch a huge attack on the island, on the Hawaiian Islands where Pearl Harbor is, and wipe out a huge portion of the American Navy that was stationed there. Now, a crucial thing is the aircraft carriers weren't in port on that day that they were attacked. So they sunk a lot of battleships, but the aircraft carriers were all out doing stuff. At the same time, the Japanese also attacked the Philippine Islands, Malaysia, just a bunch of different islands. It was over the course of a couple of days and a couple of months, but they basically took over all of these islands that you see here, all over the place. Japan became the rulers of a Pacific Ocean empire almost overnight. Okay, they were never able to set foot on the Hawaiian Islands, but they did bomb them. So that's it. Those are the 19 events that caused or led up to the start of World War II for the United States.